So when I started at Jindal, we came up with an idea that we should set up a factory to make buildings. And at the time, the only people who were building factories to make buildings were pre-engineered companies like Kirby, Tata BlueScope, Tiger, Zamil, so on and so forth. Now at that time, it sounded very exciting. Yes, we're going to set up a factory. We're going to put 40,000 tons capacity at one go. We're going to invest 200 crores of capital. We're going to put this all in one place in Bellary, next to the JSW steel plant. So raw material is available right there. And it seemed like a fantastic idea at the time. But when we set it up, we found that there were no takers. So we now had an amazing plant, an amazing fabrication facility, probably the best the country has ever seen. And at that time, it was the best in the world because we had set it up with joint venture with Severfield from UK, and it was an immaculate plant. I must thank Mr. Basan here because Prestige was our first order, who had the guts to innovate and try out a building which had an existing problem. There was a building in Prestige Shantiniketan which had a partial collapse, which everybody knows about. And we were given, as our first order, a challenge to rebuild the existing building on top of the collapse. So it was not like a nice greenfield project ground up. This is now we're talking about a brand new team in a company with a brand new fabrication facility doing structural steel on a partially collapsed building as their first job. So it was really challenging, but I must thank Prestige for giving us that option at the time. I remember negotiating with Mr. Basan at the time, and I think he was very generous in giving us some profit margin, which obviously we lost all of it because we didn't know what we were doing half the time. But we managed to build that. And then from there, the journey was very easy because one building led to another, led to another, led to another. I think we delivered more than 40 projects very successfully. I'm proud to say that the company stands very profitable today, and it's a great legacy to leave behind. But of course, I think personally I was a bit tired of being in a contracting world, and I wanted to move to the other side into the development world, and that's where Embassy happened. And Mr. Virwani gave me an opportunity to head India's first, or I would say actually second, but properly organized industrial and logistics platform. Now, what we are doing today is building large-scale parks. These parks are starting from, I would say, 25 to 30 acres in size, going up to 200 acres as a single park. Now, these parks, the beauty about these parks are they're organized logistics and manufacturing hubs. So now imagine you're a manufacturing or a company or a 3PL company who wants a warehouse. You have to today buy land. And we all know in this room that buying land in India can be one of the most difficult tasks. Trust me, I can guarantee you that. So you have to buy land, you have to convert the land, you have to get approvals on the land, and then you have to get your final plan sanction, and you have to now invest more capital to build your building. Now building your building, you have to manage the construction. So there has to be a project management, construction management, etc., etc. And then finally you will get your warehouse. So we're talking about or you'll get your factory, right? Same process for a factory. You have to buy land. Instead of commercial approvals, you take industrial approvals. You still have to get your plan sanction, and then finally you'll get a factory. And traditionally in India, this was being done in concrete, all of this. But obviously because of a host of vendors or partners available in India now, such as Kirby's, Zamil, Tata BlueScope, Tiger, and so on and so forth, we can now build these faster. The approval process and the land buying process doesn't change. It's still going to take that much time. But the construction management and the construction has become a lot easier. So in short, what Embassy is doing now is we're using steel buildings. We're using partners like Zamil, Tata BlueScope, Kirby, etc. to build fast-scale warehousing parks. Why steel is important? Now, all through my career in steel, I've always pushed that steel belongs in certain areas and it does not belong in certain areas, right? So we should not be trying to push steel where it doesn't belong. I understand all the challenges Mr. Basan covered in his presentation, but the bottom line is that in steel, it all starts with the design, right? It all always begins on the drawing board. And I think Sir will second that in his presentation, that today if you don't start properly at the beginning with the design, which means you don't understand what you're building, how you're building it, and you don't marry that with the availability in the country. It's very easy for us to say that in UK we did this, and in US we did this, and in London we did that, or in Japan this is what happened in steel. But India is a completely different story. And in India you have to be very sure of what's available locally in terms of materials, in terms of fabrication, in terms of design, and in terms of human skill sets, right? So when we started, obviously none of this was very organized. So we had to go through the entire journey of building all of these resources in-house. So we had to, I remember we went to Dubai, and we recruited, I think, more than 150 laborers who had worked in high-rise buildings in Dubai. And we filled a plane full of them and got them back to India. And then the big challenge was to get them to adjust back to India, Indian climate, Indian environment, Indian working standards. They were all Indian guys, but they had been working in Dubai for 20 plus years, or they'd been working in Abu Dhabi for 20 plus years. But these are the only guys we could find. Imagine we're sitting in a country full of labor, and these are the only guys who we could find who wouldn't be scared standing on top of a 40-story building. And they know how to work with steel at that height. So these were some of the challenges that we faced. I think we faced it together with Prestige at the time. We did some work for Reliance. I don't remember now, it's been a long time, but we did some work for Bombay Airport, and so on and so forth. We delivered close to 40 projects. Of course, let me just cover part of my presentation, which talks a little bit about steel as a building material, uses in warehouses, usage of steel in our warehouses, and of course a little bit about what we are doing in Embassy Industrial Parks. I think most people know that steel column, is there a screen here? No, okay, fine. That steel can give you large column-free spans. So you can pretty much span whatever you'd like in steel if you design it properly. Structural steel provide more usable spaces. So steel has a higher strength to weight ratio than most construction materials. It's got more ductility. So because of that, you can design narrower columns, and your buildings can have more carpet area. Now in cities like Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, more carpet area is everything. You pay hundreds of thousands of rupees per carpet area. Of course, steel, there is a misconception that steel is a very corrosive material, but actually it's exactly the opposite. So when you see rust, a surface rust on steel, people think that it's corroding inside. But actually, the natural property of steel is that surface rust protects further corrosion from happening, going deep into the steel's bones. So steel is quite an anti-corrosive material. Today, there's a lot of anti-corrosive coatings, paints, etc. available to protect steel. In high-rise buildings specifically, steel is encased normally with a concrete cladding. So that's what I think Mr. Basan was talking about, was a composite design. So you have the dead load, which is taken by the column, and you have the live load, which is taken by the concrete. So you end up with a composite steel design. And a composite steel design, the concrete automatically acts as a fire retardant, and it automatically protects the steel from corrosion. So steel is naturally very anti-corrosive. That's a diagram of a pre-engineered building over there. So if you see, this is a normal structural steel fabricated section, and this is a pre-engineered building. So the difference is that you're using less steel going into the pre-engineered area. So you're saving the quantum of steel. What does that directly relate to? Our biggest problem is saving cost. Because if you're saving the quantum of steel, you're directly now saving foundations. Because this is obviously a lighter section than compared to this. So this is where the pre-engineered building has been proven. I think we've constructed more than 20-30 million square feet in this country of just pre-engineered buildings. And it's a very, very useful material. I have already covered this in what I was saying is this is a concrete. If you build a warehouse from concrete versus steel, you'll be losing at least that much more carpet area on a concrete building, whereas the steel would be probably in mm's. So again, it gives a lot of benefit to use steel in industrial application. I think that in India is a proven market. We don't need to talk much about that. Everybody or anybody who is building an industry or a warehouse or a factory has to do it in steel today. Otherwise, it would just be an enormous cost, time, and the technology is just outdated. It wouldn't make sense. Of course, there are some types of industries where concrete is still used. I'm not saying it's not used at all, but for most industries today, steel is the way to go. Sorry. So that was basically what I was saying. Use it in factories, workshop, warehouses. Of course, cold storage and bulk storage is some of the uses of steel. So that's moving on to what Embassy is doing. This is our first upcoming logistics park, industrial park in Chakan in Pune. It's a 52-acre site. These are all steel buildings, all of them. Now the beauty about these buildings is each of these buildings can be used as a warehouse or a factory. So we've designed it very flexibly. And again, that's something where steel plays a very major role in doing so. Because if you plan, now of course, in those factories, we don't leave provisions for EOT cranes, because the minute you're putting in cranes in any factory, your entire loading structure changes. You have to have heavier foundations. You have to have a completely different type of structure. But most of assembly and processing units, from auto ancillaries to chocolate manufacturing to light fabrication to light manufacturing, don't use cranes as overhead cranes. They use more of ground flowing cranes. So this is what we are building, and we've already started construction here. Besides this, we're acquiring land in Bhiwandi. We're acquiring land in Delhi NCR. There was an announcement about a week ago that we just acquired 24 acres in NCR. We're acquiring another 100 acres there soon. We are doing some projects in Bangalore, Pune, Chennai. We have about 300 acres of land. So all these land parcels we have acquired in the last 18 months. I took 220 flights last year across the country to be acquiring land, and I can tell you it's been a great experience. It's been very exciting, very different to my previous life, where I was still taking a lot of flights, but to sell and to convince consultants and developers to buy steel, where on the opposite side it's a little easier from that point of view, but land acquisition has been a little difficult. But yeah, I think we've positioned ourselves well. We are investing close to $1 billion in this business. So that's our total capital outflow. What that would do is it would now open up a host of logistics hubs. So, who would be the beneficiaries out of this? So we have clients like Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, so your e-commerce sector gets covered. We have the FMCG clients, which is Unilever, Procter & Gamble, ITC, so on and so forth. We have retail, such as Reliance Retail, Future Group, Walmart, so on and so forth. And of course, we have one of our major clients, the 3PL sector, so third-party logistics companies, which is DHL, Toll Logistics, Renus Logistics, FedEx, and so on and so forth. The demand for warehousing in India today is off the roof. I think leasing the warehouse or finding the client is one of our least worries. Our worries or our concerns are getting the land properly, getting the approvals properly, getting the conversion done properly, and then of course building it fast. And that building it fast part is where we actually have some control. Because beyond a point, you don't have much control on land buying. Beyond a point, you don't have much control on approvals and conversions, because it does take its own time. But the building it fast part is where steel comes in. And I'm proud to say that all our parks are going to be in steel. We're going to be using roof panels, wall panels. Our total tonnage would be about 45,700 tons in 5 years. Just one company, just Embassy, that's it. Now this doesn't cover our commercial business. We're building another 20 million square feet of offices. It doesn't assume our residential business. It doesn't cover all our other businesses like hospitality, our schools, and so on and so forth. This is just Embassy Industrial Parks. It's the business that I run and I head. Sorry. So just a little bit about our company. We're a joint venture between Embassy Group and Warburg Pincus. I don't know how many of you know Warburg Pincus in this room. Warburg Pincus is a large fund from the US. It's a $45 billion fund. So this is the platform, Embassy Industrial Parks, which I'm the CEO of. And what we do in this platform is we build logistics and industrial parks across the country. And it's a joint venture between the two companies. So both of us have promoted this business to do this, to build industrial and logistics parks. And it's well capitalized between Warburg Pincus and Embassy. And we're setting up a pan-India business. Purely the entire $1 billion is going into warehousing and logistics and industrial parks, full stop. So it's a very dedicated team, a very dedicated setup, and without steel as a building material, there is no chance we can do this. Thank you very much.